Everything must change.
Straight Out University, Big John is the host with the plan. Time to wake the sleeping giant that lives in every man. Forget the ordinary path, that blueprint's outdated. We building legends here, totally self-created. You need the 4 pillars for total fulfillment. Money, muscle, frame in the game, that's the mission. Master your finances, forge your body and mindset. Level up your influence, make them all respect. Yet, stop settling for a life that's just a faded dream. Time to build your empire, make your own world shine supreme. This is the goal, let's get to work. Yeah, Straight Out University.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Straight Out University. Classes in session, and I am your host, Big John. So happy today to have 2 guests, 2 very good guests and friends of mine, and one a new friend, hopefully, after today. We're just trying to get into some stuff, and today's segment is not necessarily going to have a particular topic, but we're going to talk about the news of the day, Sunday news, just kind of things that are happening. So let's go ahead and check it out. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my first guest. And of course, he is a repeat gentleman. My man, Sean. Sean, what's going on, my man?
What's going on, guys? How's everyone doing? Good?
Well, you know they're doing
everything's good. Everything's good on my end. I'm looking forward to this podcast with you guys, especially with the new guests you got coming on. Who's a personal friend of mine. So this should be very interesting. We got some great topics we're gonna be talking about. So me, a little bit about myself. I've written a couple books. Got a couple books online. Defeating Financial Anger is one of them. Written one relationship book, Understanding Many Broken Paths, as well as another book called Don't Chase Your Dreams, Catch Them. So I'm more of in that self-help genre field as well. Right now I'm studying to become a doctor in holistic medicine. So I'm really into this whole healing the nation or healing individuals on a personal level as well as a spiritual level and emotional level as becoming a doctor. So pretty soon my title will change up there. Me, Dr. Hamilton.
nice.
But thanks for having me on, Big John. Appreciate it.
All good. Just don't get snobby on me. Start telling me I got to call you doctor. You're still Sean to me, man. You're still Sean to me. All right. Let me go ahead and bring up our next guest. And I'm excited about this. Jennifer, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Jennifer Aaron. I'm an author. I wrote the book Villain Syndrome. And I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a mom to my little boy, Francis, who is 4 years old, and my daughter, who is 14, Ireland Rose. And I'm a Jesus freak, if you want to call me that, and a political enthusiast. So that's just a little bit of it.
All right. So, like that. All right. Well, check it out. Today, we're going to have some stuff on here. Okay. Now, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is the Sunday news. You know, there are some things happening in the nation that I think affects us maybe differently from state to state. Out here in California, we got a lot of this thing going on, and it's called the teen takeover. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but this teen takeover thing is just, you know, we're a group of, young and rambunctious teens. They're going over and just kind of taking over things. You know, they take over the mall, they take over the streets, they do these things, and, they're disruptive. And sometimes, more often than not, they become destructive. So, there's a new sheriff in town, so to speak, where people are starting to say, look, enough is enough. And let me go ahead and show you this video and get your take on it. Okay.
The Trump Department of Justice is tackling teen takeovers by putting parents in D.C. on notice. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro warning moms and dads that they could face jail time if their kids are caught rampaging through the streets.
Parents, do your jobs or we will do ours. And in the end, taxpayers will no longer subsidize the chaos caused by parental neglect. So parents, if you don't control your kids, the district will.
Some strong words there. Now, curfews are already in place across Washington, D.C., but that has not ended the chaos. DC is not the only big city with a teen takeover problem. Just last week in Florida, 22 arrests were made and 2 guns recovered after fights broke out along the Tampa River Walk. The Trump Department of
This is becoming a problem. I have one more video that I want to show you guys. This was a few days ago. Here we go.
It's the latest in a string of violent melees known as teen takeovers. This brawl taking over a Chipotle in Washington, D.C. The man in the red shirt on the right trying to protect his children. He says the video doesn't capture the worst of it.
It was like an ambush. It was just like a group of individuals. They looked like ninjas, dressed in black, ski masks, just piled into the main eatery.
D.C., like several other big cities, has a curfew for minors. Now the U.S. attorney is vowing to prosecute the parents of teens who violate it.
Where we can, we will prosecute you aggressively and we will prosecute your parents. And I am not shy about looking for jail time. The people of the district have had enough.
Teen takeovers, often publicized on social media, have caused chaos nationwide, from shopping malls to parks like this one in Tampa, where 22 arrests were made. Arrests also made at this nearby trampoline park. And this chaotic scene recently in downtown Chicago, a crowd fleeing police after some teens started fighting, even tasing each other. Police there also warning they'll be strictly enforcing the city's curfew as we head into summer.
In a separate teen takeover on a Chicago street this past weekend, a 14-year-old girl was accused of hitting a police officer in the head. As for the chaos at that Chipotle in D.C., the company says no customers were hurt.
Yeah, these are the problematic things that are happening. Let me get your guys' take on it. My take real quick. Let me give you my take on this. Look, first off, we have curfews and I know that you're both in different states, but here in California, we have a 10 o'clock curfew for people that are under, I believe it's under the age of 18. And, we don't observe those curfews anymore. And we have these people, these young kids that are becoming so rambunctious and so like, well, I know my rights. Don't tell me what to do. You can't talk to me. I'm a minor, and it's like, no, take your ass home. You don't need to be out here with a bunch of other kids causing some bullshit. And, in California, it's getting worse and worse. They were just trying to take over, getting on the San Francisco Bay Bridge and shutting that down with a bunch of, bicycles and stuff. So, I don't know. Are you guys having the same problem in your states?
As far as I know, for Texas, no, we're not having that problem. Texas, they have. If they did have a curfew, then it will be strictly enforced. So they would definitely, drop the hammer down when it comes to any curfew. But as far as I've heard, I haven't heard anything of any curfew yet. As far as Texas, because Texas here, the laws here from Texas to California. I mean, I used to live in California too, and it's night and day. It's completely different. Over here in Texas, they don't play no games. Some of the laws that they kind of stay neck and neck with like Florida's laws, kind of. So the kids here, I haven't seen anything as far as like in Austin or some of the bigger cities like Houston. I haven't seen any of reports on that specifically just yet. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's little minor things here and there, but
right.
Texas cracks down on stuff like that.
What do you
Strictly,
think,
forcefully, automatically. They don't waste no time.
Right.
So,
Jennifer, what do you think?
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if Nashville had a curfew, but I just looked it up, and I guess we do. Nashville has a year-round curfew for minors under 18. So, unaccompanied juvenile curfew hours are broken down by age. Ages 16 and younger, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. on Sundays through Thursdays, and 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Ages 17 is 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Sundays and Thursdays, and then midnight to 5 a.m. Friday through Saturday. So I guess we do have a curfew for, the underage, but I haven't heard of this happening in Nashville, but I think I agree with Sean. I think that Nashville would pretty much crack down on that right away. So
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. And here's the thing, you know, there has been some issues up in Houston. There was some issues happening up in Houston. I know that there's some things happening in it's not Nashville, and I'm sorry, my geography is not very good, but there's another place up in Tennessee that is having some issues, and of course, you know, there's issues in any big city. There's always issues in a big city, but you know, especially in the District of Columbia. As a matter of fact, you mentioned Florida. Just recently in Florida, there was there was some issues happening up in Florida that, you know, people were rampaging at a beach celebration, which was a spring break. There was a whole big issue there. As a matter of fact, they're shutting things down up in Florida because it's gotten so far out of hand. And now with what's happening in the District of Columbia up in Washington, they're talking about going after the parents. So if your children are outside doing things that are, well, let's just be honest, that are stupid, they're going to start going after parents. And what that the district attorney was talking about is doing something that makes the parents liable for any damages that their children wind up committing. They commit a penalty, like you just heard. There was one of them kids were hitting a cop, and you know, I don't think people really truly understand that. Look, you know, if you assault a police officer, that's a felony. It doesn't matter if you were a child or not; it's a felony. Yeah. But we've gotten so rambunctious and we've gotten so out of hand. People think that they can just treat officers like shit. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a First Amendment guy. I don't, you know, I believe that I don't have a right. If an officer walks up to me and just asks me for my ID, you're not getting shit, because I believe in the Constitution. Now, if I'm there under suspicion of something that you saw me commit a crime, or that I'm on tape of committing a crime, well, then I'll give up my information as soon as you read me my Miranda rights. But I don't, you know, people take these things out of context. Look, if you're doing foul shit, then the cops have a right to ask you for your ID, whether you're a minor or not. But people have this thought. They see all this stuff on YouTube, like, well, all you have to do is tell the cop, oh, you have to talk to my lawyer. I'm not talking to you. Bullshit. In certain circumstances, you're compelled to talk. Your First Amendment doesn't always apply, you know, when it comes to you doing a crime. What do you guys think about the parents being held liable for what their kids are doing? Sean, I'm sorry, Jennifer, you.
I believe that they should be held accountable if their children are, you know, out of hand. They're committing a crime, so they need to learn a lesson, because someday if they don't, they're going to commit even harsher crimes. And it's not okay. It's violent. It's destructive, and they should be responsible for any of the damages that they create. If a grown adult goes and does these things, they go to jail. They have to be held responsible. So, but that's your child, underage or not. That's your kid or your kids, and you need to be responsible for how you're raising them.
Do you think? Let me ask you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Do you think, before I go to Sean, do you think that there should be criminal when a child does something that's criminal, and I'm talking about destruction of property? Let's say they break a windshield out of a car. I'm just saying. Do you think that the parents should be held criminally, even if that means going to jail?
Even if that means what? I'm sorry, it kind of blipped.
Going to jail?
Like the parents going to jail for that?
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm not saying that they should be there for a very long time. You know, I think you're fully responsible for what your children are out there doing. So, you know, your kids maybe go to a juvenile type, you know, facility where they're taught about being, you know, good citizens and not doing these things. But the parents also need to go and be reprimanded as well, because, if the parents aren't going to be held responsible for that as well, they're just going to keep letting their kids do it because they're getting away with it. They're not teaching their kids to have respect, and it's not funny. So yeah, I think that they should
Okay.
learn a lesson as well, and maybe
All right.
maybe go to jail. So
What do you think, Sean?
I do agree with you on the points, on the key points, Jennifer. But you also have these certain kids that have these attitudes that go off. Oh well, now that I know that my parents gonna go to jail, I'll do it anyway because they're gonna get in trouble too. It's gonna be less harsh on me. So as like reprimanding the parent, yes, the parent should be reprimanded for their kids' actions, but the kids should actually have the burden of the heat of whatever they did wrong. Because say if they put a parent in jail and they're in jail for 6 months for something that their child did, and then the child, oh well, they're a child, they only get 6 weeks. To me, it's counterintuitive of
Gotcha.
what we're trying to do, what they're trying to do as far as holding the parent responsible. And yes, by all means, the parent should be responsible. And maybe it will light a fire underneath the parents' butt to go off and have more strict rules in the house.
Right.
Go off and sit there and have these talks with their children, like, this is society, this is the society that you grow up in, this is society that you live in, these are your neighbors, why are you destroying your own neighborhood? That doesn't make no sense. And
Right.
the fact that most parents don't know about this, that they possibly could go to jail, or even the curfews, like, how many parents know about the curfews? I don't know what the curfews are in Texas, to be completely honest with you. I don't know every single age of what curfew is. I have no clue because, yeah, I set my own curfew for my kids, but
Yeah.
didn't know that the state has their own particular curfew
Right.
for the children. And I think we should be educated as parents as well, because most parents don't know.
Right. And I want to say that Cool Breeze here actually put a great point in there, which is, it really does. And Jennifer, you alluded to this also a little bit, which is it should depend on the severity of the crime. Like if a kid is out with his friends and they're doing things like, I mean, look, I don't know. We were once kids also, we were out having a beer, watching, well, I go way back. Okay, I know I'm older than both of you guys, but we used to go to the drive-in theater, and we used to find somebody to buy us beer, and we would be at the drive-in theater drinking. Okay, or we used to sneak beer in the theater and go watch a movie. Things of that nature. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should, because that was wrong what I was doing also, but there were consequences if I got caught. Now, if I got caught, I was reprimanded by my mother, and she was a stern disciplinarian. So, I was afraid of those things. So there was a lot of things that I didn't do because I was afraid I'm going to come home and catch hell. But there were, as I got older, as things weren't as because kids today don't have a lot of things to do. Like we don't have a lot of activities for kids to go to and to be active in. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but what do we do with these kids? They're so rambunctious and they want things to do, but yet they don't have places to go. They don't have things to do. They don't know who to trust because we just kind of let them do what the hell they want. They want to just, run up and be, to be a little bit wild and out of control. Well, don't we take some responsibility and those things also from a societal standpoint? And then we look at the parents not, being a little bit more involved. Is that how we should look at things? What do you think, Jennifer?
I think I agree with you. We don't know the situation, like the background of kids, what they're really going through. they could be fatherless homes. They could have been raised, fatherless, and just acting out of, obviously they're not disciplined very well. I think, like you said, like depending on the severity of what these children are doing, I feel like, we need some sort of facility where these kids can go and learn, this is wrong, and, learn what they're really doing and the consequences of what could happen as they get older if they continue to do that. I don't think it should be like this really, really harsh punishment. I mean, because they're not fully developed yet in their mind. So how can they be fully mature yet and understand what they're doing? And like you said, I mean, we've all done dumb stuff when we were younger. We didn't have any care in the world. We just thought it was funny, or just, being rebels.
How dare
I think these kids going around and being extremely violent, they could kill somebody, and that's a little bit more harsh than going out and just being idiots. And so
I agree.
I think it's I think it could be controversial, because I don't even know why these kids are out there doing that.
Maybe it's because they don't have anything else to do. I mean, and you're right, and I can concede some of those facts, but Dawn, as I see on here, she makes a great point, or that individual makes a great point, which is, family counseling. I think that should be the first step. And I'm not going to be soft on this, because obviously a kid going out there and committing a crime, like what they were saying in that newscast, which is 2 of those people were caught with guns. That's a tough thing. And, there's the criminal element always. Like, look, we've been around a bunch of friends, and I'm sure at some point we have been around people that probably didn't make other people feel comfortable, because they were a little more, they'd go hard about things. Like, I had friends that would drink, but then I had other friends that would, they had friends that would do like hard drugs. And I was like, okay, that's not my cup of tea. So, you kind of gravitate to another way. But sometimes kids are influenced so easily by those bad intentions, and those kids, or the other kids with bad intentions, that they just become wrapped up into it. But we need some sort of outlet. We need an off ramp for them to be able to say, okay, I'm not good with this, and I'm going to go ahead and go off of this. I'm not going to do this anymore. Do you agree with that, Sean?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I mean, for me, I had a stern dad. My mom was also stern, so it was a little different for me. We had to be in when the street light came on. That was our curfew. And I don't know if you guys remember the street light rule.
Oh yeah.
I'm old enough to remember the street light rule. And once that street light came on, I was inside. That was considered curfew. And then I guess the street light kind of went on, right at dusk, as soon as it started
Yep.
falling, and then all of a sudden, okay, everyone in the neighborhood's in their damn house where they're supposed to be.
Yep.
And now it's like we really don't have that no more, because let's face it, okay, you got family homes that have both parents that have to work.
Mhm.
It's very, very difficult financially to
Right.
set a middle ground. Back in the day, my dad was just working, so my mom was there, cracking the whip, and doing what she had to do to be the house mom, and still do the things that she needed to do. So nowadays we don't have it like that no more. I mean, it
Yeah.
can be like that, but it's very far few in between that it's actually like that. So where you got both parents that are there. Most kids that they don't have their dads.
Mhm.
Most kids don't have their moms. I got a buddy that didn't have his mom in his life. Just had his dad, and being a single dad, he had to fight through that as well. So
I
it's
agree.
it's very difficult to find that common ground. I agree with you, John, as far as like having some outlets for these kids to go to, like learning facilities should be implemented as far as how to be productive humans in society, which they're not.
Right.
We have all these other facilities for like, geriatric people, people on the autistic, spectrum, and but what about having facilities that would be geared to having productive children to grow up to be, say if they didn't have a parent, I mean, I understand they have the Big Brother program, you know, which is great, but that can only go so far, you
Well, do
know.
you think, let me ask you this, Sean, and Jennifer, do you think that we've just become a little bit too soft about coddling kids? Like, when I used to coach, there were some kids that you had to coddle to get the best performance out of them, and there was other kids that you could directly challenge, and that would get the best out of them. But you had to learn the ebbs and flows of kids and how to get them to perform at their highest levels, even as kids. But I think that we've gotten so soft with kids that we do this thing now. Before I retired, and I used to work for the school districts, and I used to watch these kids do things that I would be just like, man, I'm not sure how far that kid's going to make it. Like, he or she would just do things. And then, us as the adults in the room, some of these kids were a little bit out of hand. And then some were really on the other side where they were being disruptive to the classroom. And I would ask, well, what are you going to do about that? I'd ask like the counselor, what's going to happen with this kid? And they say, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to ignore the bad things that they do, and we're going to reward the good things. I go, oh, so when this kid is going through, yelling and running around the campus and going into a classroom and grabbing a fire extinguisher off the wall and setting it off in the classroom, we're going to ignore that because that's the new way of doing discipline in schools. And I said, oh, we don't suspend them. And they said, no, we don't do suspensions. And I'm like, well, that's probably why our test scores are in the shitter. That's probably why these kids don't have any kind of real structure, because obviously they don't have it at home. Because even though I'm a self-proclaimed fuck up. When I was in school, I got suspended a lot. I got into a lot of fights. I got into a lot of trouble for stupid shit. But I was always afraid of my mom. And that's the way it was for me. I was afraid of my mom. I grew up in a single mother household. My father was not in the picture, but I was more afraid of my mom than anything else. I didn't want to disappoint her. And even though I still messed up, I got to some point, there was some level in there that wouldn't let me do that thing because I was afraid of her. But a lot like what you alluded to earlier, Sean, which is not a lot of kids nowadays have both parents in the home. And that's problematic because single parenthood, now going to some statistics, when you have single parents, children do better if they have to have a single parent in the male household than the female household statistically. Although single parent households don't have a male in the picture or in the house 70% of the time. That's problematic for the simple reason is that we are not allowing these kids to have proper guidance, because the way I look at the world, okay, now this is right or wrong. Moms are meant to help children understand that it's okay. There's nothing under the bed. The men in the family household, the male in the household is meant for discipline and guidance. And as they get older as children, they do less of the nurturing from the mother, and now they need the guidance of the father to continue to be a better person, a better outcome for these kids. And that's what we found from nuclear households. But we've also found that out when children are with their fathers opposed to when they're just with their mothers only. So, these kinds of things, I think that this is probably one of the best ways for us to move forward as a society is to bring back, now I know this is a little bit controversial, but shaming. I don't think that you should be able to get away with doing something stupid without somebody telling you that was stupid. And we don't allow our coaches, our teachers, our guidance counselors to actually do those things anymore. What do you think, Jennifer?
No, I agree with you, like 100%. We are way, yes. No, I everything that you just touched base on, I was like, yes, 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 and yes. Uh, we are way too soft. Like Sean and you both, I totally agree with that. Like the males are the authority of the home, and if a child doesn't have like both parents to learn from and those behaviors, then they just rely on that one parent.
Yes.
So and I have to admit it, as a woman myself, as a mother myself, we tend to be more um, nurturing and
Soft.
soft and
Lenient.
yes, just motherly. And you know, the men are the, you know, even biblically in the Bible, men are supposed to be the head of the household. They're supposed to, you know, tell the child when they're disrespecting the mother. But they don't have any of that. They don't know how to do any of it. So they just grow up learning the behaviors from the mom, and they don't know how to be, you know, brave and tough. And I mean,
Yes.
maybe they do, you know, if the mother teaches that too. But I think it's just more of a connection too, a natural connection that they don't have there. So I agree with everything that you're saying completely. For
I
two
agree.
soft,
Thank you for that. And here's something that, and I'm reading Don's quote here about the 11 kids, and each one are different. No, I couldn't. 11 kids. I'm gonna be honest with you. We had two, and one of them was, our oldest was a very, docile kind of kid. Was really kind of laid back and relaxed, a real chill kid. And then our youngest was his nickname was the Extreme, because he just did shit that was just extreme. I mean, everything he did, he got on them rollerblades and he was doing 150 miles an hour. He got on that little, little bikes things, and he was just, everything was extreme with him. So I couldn't imagine 11. Don, good for you, because wow, you practically got to be a psychologist to deal with that many, because that's a football team. And trust me, I coached football for a while, and everyone, you're right, absolutely right. Every one of them kids was different, but here's the consistency that I had. The one consistency that I had with both my boys, and there were boys, I probably would have been different with a girl. I honestly couldn't tell you. I have trouble with my nieces, disciplining my nieces, so I could imagine that would be very hard for me. But with my boys, even though I treated both of them differently in certain ways, there was one consistency, which was my discipline. My discipline for both of them was, don't start shit, it won't be shit, because you ain't shit. That's what it's about. And I don't mean ain't shit as a person. I mean, what you saying to me ain't shit, especially when you've done something wrong. I'm not going to forgive you. You don't get credit for what you're supposed to do, and you sure as hell are going to get shit for things you shouldn't have done. But all I ask, I'm not asking for a perfect child. Never ask for a perfect child, because I know there is no perfect child. But the only thing that I'm asking you for is don't do the same dumb shit over and over. Learn from your mistakes and move forward. What do you think, John? I mean, Sean, you got two boys, right?
Oh yeah, I've got two boys, and they're both, don't get me wrong, they're wonderful kids, but they have a family dynamic that's completely different. They got their stepdad as well as me, and then their mom's pretty much, she drops the hammer too. So yeah,
Oh,
they're not getting away with too much. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, they have their times where they're gonna test the waters. I think all kids will test the waters with their parents to see what they can get away with, but it's a lot more difficult to get away with having two parents versus three parents versus one.
I
So,
agree.
uh, as far as getting getting back to like their temperament, and because let's face it, I thought I was an excellent child. I'm like, oh, I was so good. Why can't these kids be like me? Because I was constantly afraid. Out of respect, I was afraid of my dad. I wasn't afraid out of mutual, like, this fear, like, oh crap, he's gonna kill me. No, it wasn't even like that. It was more out of respect. Now I
Right.
come from both sides of the spectrum. When I was younger, a little background about me. When I was younger, I was abused by my biological father, so I knew terror, I knew fear,
Right.
in that sense. And then I was raised by my uncle, who became my dad, and he showed me the other way. He showed me, how to be a strong man. And this is a man that raised 8 of us. None of us were even his by blood, and he never had a father.
Mm.
He didn't even know who his father was. His mom raised him. So, and she did a wonderful job. So I'm not saying women can't raise kids and drop the hammer and actually give these kids guidance, because my dad is one of those kids that had that guidance from a woman,
Right.
from a strong woman. Um, so these kids, they do need the guidance. Yes, I believe they need nurturing from a woman as well. Um, but these young kids nowadays, with social media and everything, that's with the movies, everything being glorified. You know, I mean, we don't have wholesome movies no more. So these kids are watching whatever, and now
Yeah.
they got their phones, and they got a
Yeah.
movie theater on their phone. So it's hard to actually, you know
That's
it's
true.
hard to actually go off and monitor that, especially when you got us old schoolers don't really know anything about technology. I mean, look what happened earlier. I mean, I had to have my son get me on, so they know how
Yeah,
to
we
go through the
know.
back doors and stuff. They're very savvy when it comes to that. So you can disable anything you want, but the kids are going to find out eventually. So I
No,
think that goes back to like Jennifer was saying, having these grounded
well, we need
values
to have
and
yeah,
family values.
100%. And that's, I think we're definitely missing that. And it really is a hard way for these kids to grow up, because they're being influenced culturally by a lot of things that are happening in media, and as well as these videos and these movies and so forth, so they get this wannabe free pass, and then we push this victimhood on everybody, which
Oh,
it's an embarrassing thing to me, because I see a lot of Mexicanos, having this victim mentality, and I speak because in my culture, look, we work hard. We grew up, mothers and fathers that worked hard and so forth, and aunts and uncles. And, you didn't get out of line. I mean, not only would I get my ass kicked by my mom, but there was my uncle and my aunt and my older brother that would beat
the
my
whole
ass for
family.
me. Oh yeah, no, but that's how we ran. Families are run by committee, in a lot of Hispanic communities, but we've lost some of that. Now everybody's a victim for everything. But I do appreciate that, and let's go ahead and move on to the next subject. And I think you guys might like this one. This has to do about the voting situation. Now, I'm not talking about the voter rights, like the gerrymandering and so forth. I want to talk about some of the psychological things that are happening here in the virtual signaling that's going on by people in general, especially the politicians. Check this out. Let me open this up a little bit.
About 83% of the American people, including a majority of Democrats, support voter ID laws.
Yeah, the voter ID laws that first, each state can have its own voter ID laws, and some do and some don't. But secondly, what they are proposing in this so-called SAVE Act is like Jim Crow 2.0. They make it so hard to get any kind of voter ID that more than 20 million legitimate people, mainly poorer people and people of color, will not be able to vote under this law. We will not let it pass in the Senate. We are fighting it tooth and nail. It's an outrageous proposal that is, that shows the sort of political bias of the MAGA right. They don't want poor people to vote. They don't want people of color to vote, because they often don't vote for them.
All right, I'm gonna bring up this next video, because I know that was a little bit of a burner.
71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0, and I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you will be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
All right. Now, I'm very, I trip out on this one for the simple reason is, when Chuck Schumer talks about, a woman who changes her name, gets married and changes her name is not going to be able to vote. When a black person doesn't know how to go and get their birth certificate. I wonder, like, where in the hell did those ideals get birthed? I mean, as a woman, Jennifer, I will defer to you on this one. Is it possible that people that are unable to figure out how to vote if they've gotten married and their birth certificate name is different than their marriage name?
I'd say no. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Here's a question that I'm dying to ask about this. Do you find it offensive for Chuck Schumer to make people think that a woman is unable to know where to go get her birth certificate because she got a marriage license and now her birth certificate name is different than her marriage name and they can't figure out how to do that? I mean, do you find that to be kind of insulting?
It is insulting. It's basically saying that we aren't smart enough or patriotic enough as women to know how to go do simple everyday things like that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I went and got my birth certificate because I kept losing it. I've had no problems. I knew how to do it myself. I didn't have to ask anybody. I mean, it's pretty explanatory. So yeah, it's offending. It's just basically calling female race stupid and pathetic and unworthy.
And it's 2026. You mean to tell me that women and young women today cannot figure that out? Now, don't get me wrong. We saw this firsthand where sometimes technology is a little bit of a problem for people, like it was Sean trying to figure out how to get on today's podcast.
Embarrassing.
And it was. You had to have your help with this, but I'm going to be with you on this one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just picking on you because there are times that I call my son and I'm like, I can't figure out this shit on my phone. So, I can understand some of this and saying that, okay, as a technology kind of a thing, maybe there could be a gap for people that are, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old because they don't understand. But I want to say people that are 40, 30, 20, I don't think they have any problem trying to figure out where to go to the DMV to have their name changed or go and register to vote and what information they need, their birth certificate. You need your birth certificate for a lot of shit. To get a loan, to do things, you got to have your birth certificate for stuff. And I find it very offensive that he would think that people of color don't know how to do this. And as a woman, I wanted to ask you that question because that is, I don't know, I take that as like, oh, that my wife completely understands all that. I don't understand where they're getting that or who they're talking about, right? Like, where do these people live that they don't know how to do this shit? Where do they live? Like in the middle of Texas? No, I'm just playing. I'm just messing with you. Hey, because I don't know, man. How far away is your DMV, bro? How far away is it from you?
Oh, mine? 10 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, see, but they make it act like you gotta trek through the mountains and you gotta do all. Where the hell do these people live that they're talking about that? Matter of fact, I have one more video. I actually have two more videos, but I have this one video that I really want to show you because I think there are politicians today. Okay, now Chuck Schumer's an old guy. He's like 70 some, almost 80 years old. This guy's an old guy. Maybe he doesn't understand, but here is a young politician saying this. But I'm going to bring this video up. There's a couple things. Just listen to what these people say about this.
I'm 63 years old. I have never had a problem voting.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is.
Okay, that I believe that's the governor of New York saying, is that the craziest thing? I mean, I heard that and I was just like, what the fuck? She thinks that there are black kids that don't know what a computer is. But moving forward, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut that off. That just struck me so bad. All right, moving forward.
Voter fraud does not exist. 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
We find it racist.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
I want to eliminate every single voter registration law.
What do you mean you don't have voter ID in California?
What? When did that happen?
When black Americans have the right to vote and that vote is protected, our schools get funded.
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody that I know have ID.
So now you all gonna drag black people in here and gonna have them come up here and talk about how they scared to vote, how this messed up their right to vote, when you know it's not true.
So if you are not from here, it is time to pull up.
I've got two black panelists here. Ajla,
That's not.
have ID and proof of citizenship.
Oh, bro, he looks so scared now. Democrats are freaking out, saying that black people are too stupid to have.
Yeah, that I saw that the other day, and I was just kind of like, what are we doing over here? I mean, that's a crazy thought, right? Like, how in the hell do people today think that people of color, minorities, don't know how to go to the DMV? That they're not savvy, and that's what they're saying. And I was wondering, like, where in the hell is that coming from? And then here you have AOC. I believe she's a senator out of Texas. I'm sorry, New York. And you have these politicians pushing this, and what it does is it trickles down to everyday people. Now think about it. Now, if a politician's pushing an agenda, I can see why they would say things like that, like, oh, we got to do this is Jim Crow 2.0, because they're pushing an agenda. But that agenda goes so far that it infects people to actually believe this. Now, I have this second video. It's the last video of this thing. I want you guys to just sit back and watch a little bit of this. Oh, really?
I'm Ami Horowitz.
It's going to go. Oh, yeah, here we go.
And I'm here in Berkeley, California to find out if voter ID laws suppress the black vote.
Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad.
I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here.
I'm not sure if you guys caught a lot of that, but they basically were saying that people didn't even have access to it because, you have to have data, and you have to have data on your plans, for your phone, and they don't have that. They don't have computers. They don't have the knowledge. And the last woman was saying, the majority of the people in Florida got felonies and they can't vote. And this is the thought process of people thinking of that community, my community. Look, I'm Hispanic, and a woman the other day told me that I'm oppressed and was trying to convince me how oppressed I was. And I said, I don't feel oppressed. And she says, see, you don't even understand how oppressed you are. And I was like, I was taken back. I was like, Man, you mean to tell me that I don't understand how oppressed I am? That's how oppressed I am. That's the kind of thing that we're working through. Now think about this. This is such a victim card. A lot of people are thinking this, like, oh yeah, this is racist. What's racist? That you have to prove who you are so you can vote? Other countries do this. Other countries that we would consider third world countries have voter ID. So I don't understand how we're this way. I just want to show you this last bit. And now what this is the response from Black people about what they heard. White, I shouldn't say it that way, but what people think about them. Let me get it here.
East Harlem to ask Black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any Black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so like, we know what we need to carry around.
Yeah, everybody that I know have ID. Like, that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, an ID.
Do you know any Black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right?
That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that Black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that, on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Do you have a problem getting there if you have to get there?
No.
I think we make the point on there. But when I first saw this, again, I was like,
How dare you?
I was like, what? Wait a minute, because I'm part of that group. I'm part of that group that they're talking about. Like, and then to hear this woman tell me how oppressed I was like, man, people think that. But see, that's the effect in which it happens to people, where people are constantly told you're oppressed and you're this and you're that. And some people are like, God, maybe I am. And I don't understand that. So part of the thought process I have is, why do you think that some of us think that way of other minorities? Why do we think that Black and brown people don't understand or don't have access? Is there anything that you can think of that why people would think that, Sean?
I think that's more like in the home type of thought process. Like when it comes to like racist ideas or people being racist, I think it's taught in the home. To be completely honest with you, I think the majority of it's taught in the home. I've heard kids say some stuff that wasn't necessarily their view, and I knew who their parents were, and their parents are very, very loud about their views when it comes to racism. So when you look at that, like a lot of it has to come with in the home and what they're being taught in the home, because not everyone believes all that stuff. Like to me, those videos that's just nonsense. Like they don't know how to go to the DMV. I see a lot of people in my area. I just recently went to the DMV and they were of color. They were there, either getting a name change, getting an address change or whatnot. So, to me, to sit there and have this mentality of people that don't have the common sense, because it's all common sense,
Yeah,
Yes, we should have voter ID. We should have stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just I look at it from the perspective of how does anybody think that other people are not advanced enough? I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Jennifer?
Well, I agree with Sean. I'm gonna take it a step further. I think it's also, government propaganda to divide people for political gain, to turn each other against each other. And, I mean, That's what I think.
You know, and you know, there's a lot of people that do say that. And you know, if I can bring up some statistics that we actually saw on some of this, that there is that according to a poll that was taken with the Republican Party, that 95% of people in the Republican Party are for voter ID. 71% of Democrats are in favor of voter ID. And if you break it down, white tea, and I got to be careful on how I say things because sometimes YouTube and everybody will stick me. So white tea people are at 85%. Latinos, Mexicanos are at 82% in favor, and black people in general are 76% for it. And this is what I don't understand. See, this to me, like, and I'll go to what you said, Jennifer. This is a political push. This isn't a push of us as people, because the majority of all of us, individually and collectively, don't agree with what the politicians are saying, especially the Democratic Party. Now, I'm a Democrat, okay, and I said that from the very beginning. But we Democrats as a whole are for voter ID. So to have politicians basically tell us this, and then you have a group of people who believe that this is racist because people don't have access. Like a woman is unable to understand how to, when she gets married, how to change her name or how to go prove that to voter ID, to get a voter ID and to become eligible to vote, because it's too difficult. And for a person like myself, I don't know how to use a computer. I've never even heard of the word computer before. You know, I mean, it makes you wonder, why are we pushing things like that on us as people in general? And why is it being put by a particular set of group of people, which is the Democratic Party is pushing this? And I don't understand it. It to me, it doesn't make sense to tell people, no, look, you're so dumb, you can't do this and you can't figure it out. So we're going to do it for you. So we're going to say no ID because it's racist. But yet the majority of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, either one of you, we're in the United States of America, the majority is what counts. Now, if we are combined together to have a total vote of 83% of people in general want voter ID, is that not just the majority, right, that wants this? Why is the Democratic Party pushing back so hard about this? It's the political agenda, like what you were saying, Jennifer. It's definitely the political agenda. And that's dangerous for us as Americans. That's dangerous to make people think that they're victims when they truly aren't, or looking for the boogeyman where there is no boogeyman. And that's a hard thing for me to swallow. I mean, especially as being Latino, because I catch enough shit as it is. All right, look at me. When I walk out the house, I'm suspicious already. All right, I don't need any extra shit, put on my plate about how I'm oppressed and shit. All right, moving forward. Here's my next video. It's a new law that just came into effect in Colorado. I want to get you guys' opinion on this. Here we go.
After hours of public comment, a controversial bill aimed at enhancing transgender protections in Colorado passed the Senate Judiciary Committee, but not without some major modifications. 90's reporter Brianna Fernandez is joining us now with the latest results from that hearing. Brianna, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, Jordan. Yeah, a lot of changes to this bill. We know that this bill passed in committee early this morning. Actually, at 1 a.m. is when they wrapped up, just a little before 1 a.m. So here's what we know so far, because this all, of course, developed while you guys were sleeping. So the Democrat-backed House version has already passed. House Bill 1312, also known as the Kelly Loving Act, will expand anti-discrimination protections for transgender individuals and clarify how various gender identity issues are handled. So this would increase protections for trans kids, such as making school dress codes and name change policies more inclusive, plus protect access to gender-affirming care for children. Now, originally, the bill would have let judges consider misgendering and dead naming to be a form of abuse when deciding child custody cases. Conservative groups claim that the government was going to use that to take people's kids away. Some pro-LGBTQ plus groups also raised concerns over the bill, worried that a legal challenge could take down other protections as well. Bill sponsors removed that clause, but not before hours of testimony. Around 600 people signed up to speak. Take a listen to both sides.
I'm gonna stop it right there because I want to. There's a particular article. I mean, a particular section I want to go to. All right, here we go.
National educators should already be doing.
We are against 1312 because it greatly reduces the ability of parents and children to have difficult conversations around the subject of transgendering. Adolescents famously want what they want. Parents often must frustrate their children. It is part of child rearing. 1312 is a gun to the parent's head because all a child has to do is complain, and social services can remove the child from the home.
So what they're saying is this, they've expanded it. They've expanded the bill to include that if you as a parent don't affirm your child's decision, 13, 12, 13 years old, don't affirm their decision to change to transgender, that they could call Child Protective Services, and Child Protective Services, based on this law, can take your child from you. I don't know how else to put that law down, but I don't agree with that. What do you think, Jennifer?
I already have such a distaste and disgust for CPS agencies. I think it needs completely abolished and a new system set in place. They are no different than human traffickers, and the judicial system are just as corrupt, and they work hand in hand with CPS. And if you notice, they always make legislation to do with how can we take kids away from their parents. And this is another form and tactic that they're using to take kids away from parents and punishing parents and doing what they want with them. This is absolutely disgusting. It infuriates me as a mother because there's no way in heck if any of my children came up to me and said, I want to change my gender, then I'm gonna allow that. There's no way. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know anything. So I think it's just another way for the government to control and manipulate and take children away from parents.
Sorry about that, you guys. I took a dump there. I dumped out this damn thing. I'm having technical issues, and it is embarrassing. So, no, I agree with you. And let me ask you, Sean. And I also want to point out Dawn Jennings. I'm going to come back to that one thing that you said about in Spanish, Latino, and Mexican communities that you would think that the language barriers can access proper documents and transitioning IDs. I can speak to that, and I'll speak to that in a little bit, Don. That's a great point, and I wanted to point that out from Don. So, Sean, let me ask you this. You got two boys. What do you think of a law that says that, here are kids who we don't allow them to make decisions such as you can't get a tattoo without a parent's signature that you agree that that's going to happen. They can't buy cigarettes before what is it? I don't know if that's 18. It used to be 18 in California, but I think we moved it up. I'm not even sure. But okay, so let's say it's 18. You can't buy alcohol until you're 21. And you're in Texas and you're in Tennessee. In Tennessee, I know in Texas, I don't believe that you can buy I think it's a handgun before I think it's before 18. I know in California it's 21, but you can buy a rifle. I believe you can buy a rifle earlier than you can buy a handgun in California. But California is way off the chart on shit that should be legal and not legal. But I don't think that a child who just comes out of believing that they're Santa Claus should have a right to say, well, I want to change this about myself from a body standpoint And if my parent doesn't agree with me, I'm going to call an agency, a governmental agency, to take me away from my parents because they don't know better. But yet we know better about everything else. We just talked about laws. You know, if a child goes and commits an act of crime and these teen takeovers, how we should make parents more, you know, liable, right, for what our kids do. But yet we're going to do something like this where we're going to say, no, you don't agree with their, you know, you're not affirming their identity, so we get to take them away from you. What do you think, Sean?
For me, okay, I've got kids. That right there is super dangerous because, like I said, everyone, all the kids have access to social media. They all have access to the news. That's kind of putting the parents, that's pointing pretty much pointing a gun to the parents' head and be like, you have no authority over your children.
Right.
You know, and I'm in agreement with Jennifer, what she said, that CPS is more of an agency to take kids and do what they want with them, and this trafficking stuff that's going on. You know, CPS ain't about protecting kids no more. It's a whole different entity. You know, and I don't even know if it was that specific entity to where they were there to protect the kids in the first place. You know, so it's an overreach for the parents as well as communities. For instance, it can linger into a community to where children now have, a way out if they don't like like a curfew, like we just brought up the curfew thing. Oh, you don't want to let me out? Okay, now I'm gonna say this, and now I'll be out of here. So here we are. Here we are as parents. We're all parents on this podcast. To sit there and protect your children from a government agency that's overreaching in a manner to where your hands are tied. That I would say has to be more of a community thing, to where the community has to come together as parents and start a new division as, okay, how do we protect ourselves as parents to protect our kids from a government resource that's going to come in and just rip the families apart, us not knowing where the kids are, not knowing what's going on, and not even know if they're protecting them. And where's our protection as parents?
Right, because how can we swing so far to the left and so far to the right on something about parents' accountability for their children, right? Because in one aspect, in the teen takeover, we're talking about parents being responsible for their children and the actions in which they have, not only to others but to themselves, right? I mean, that's one of the parents' responsibilities, right? That child is safe, and that they're sound, and that they have good advice and good counseling from you, and that you play an interactive part in their lives in order to help guide them. And then you have this far other side that says that we're going to take that right away from you because you don't know your best. You obviously are not counseling that child right, because you're just not affirming whatever identity they want to be in. So I don't understand the swing about how we want to have everybody have accountability, but at the same time, we want to take the ability of making decisions for a child out of your hands just because the child feels that they want to be something or someone else. I don't know. I don't understand how we can reconcile that as far as in a cohesive argument, because accountability means accountability of all of what our children do. But then to take it away from us with a law like that gives them an ounce. And Don, and I believe Cool Breeze, had said that in the chat, that, part of accountability and being responsible is that the parents have to be responsible because they have to be present. But if the government is going to take your kid away, how the hell are you going to be present if that's an option on the table for the child? Think about it. That's to the child's discretion and not yours anymore as a parent. What do you guys think? Am I on? Am I off?
just being polite. I didn't know if you wanted to say something first or.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Jen.
I mean, I get everything that you're saying. You know, I think it's so stupid. It's like saying if your kid doesn't like what you made them for dinner, they can call CPS. I mean,
Yeah.
how stupid is that? But again, I think it goes back to how corrupt our government is, our judicial system, CPS. Each child that CPS gets, they're worth thousands of dollars. So of course they're going to do every little thing, you know, and they're going to mismantle you, make you confused about it.
Unfortunately.
But it's stealing kids under color of law. That's what it is.
That's an interesting way of putting it. And you know what?
Oh, yeah.
And giving that even more thought. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's crazy. But
Like
go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
like when I was in school, I was getting my criminal justice degree, and the cop that was the teacher, he's like, yeah, it's so crazy. I had my 3-year-old granddaughter. She was sitting on a table, and and she was doing something she wasn't supposed to do, and I came over to her and I was gonna swat her one, and all of a sudden I hear her little mouth come out. Go ahead, hit me. I'll get you for child abuse.
Yeah.
Yo, a 3-year-old saying this. Yo, could you imagine the ramifications of this law going into effect amongst all the states? I mean,
Great point.
parents shouldn't even be parents no more at that point.
Great point. You make a great point there. Now, let me push back on something though. Have you ever heard of this thing? And I know you guys are up in different parts of the state than I am, but it's really prevalent here. It's called body autonomy. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
And do you think that a child has just as much right of body autonomy than an adult? Do you think that's true? Jennifer, you first.
Like in what way? Because
Well, have the right to make decisions about their own body.
I mean, they're kids. They don't really know and understand anything about their own bodies, you know, but we do, right? So I don't think I know.
So
They shouldn't be making decisions about their body. Like, see, yes and no, because, you know, a child could sit there and say, you know, they don't want somebody to touch them, right?
Yeah.
But no, they don't know anything about, you know, well, I want to be a boy even though I'm a girl.
Mhm.
They're not going to know anything about their bodies with that. So I don't
Well,
know.
what if they feel it's just wrong? I mean, if they feel that it's wrong, I mean, again, we're going by a feeling, right? I mean, if a child feels that something's wrong, we normally would tell them, okay, well then you should say no because you feel that it's wrong, right? And you should have a voice in saying that it's wrong. Now, what if they believe that they're in the wrong body and they're saying, no, I believe I'm in the wrong body. So this law is basically saying that if you as a parent don't want to have a discussion with them about it, that they can call CPS, that the child can call CPS to have them removed because you're not listening to them as they're trying to protect their body autonomy. What do you think, Sean?
Well, as far as their body autonomy, their bodies are still developing. So for a child to sit there and say, oh, well, I don't feel a certain way when their body is still developing on a humanistic level, you can't sit there and say, okay, well, yeah, they might have a thought process and a feeling about something when their body is still they're still going into the puberty phase. So yeah, let them go through that phase and stay away from it. Get the government out of that. The government has no right to come in and try to dictate a child from oh well they feel a certain way. Well, I feel a certain way too, but is the government going to come help me out? No. So back up, let the parents take control of that situation, and don't give this empowerment to these children when they don't even know the ramifications. There's been plenty of stories out there of young kids that went through the transition, and now that they're older, they found out it was a mistake.
Right, but let me push back on you then. Then let me say, how about if a child, you're saying that they're too young, but I mean, we all say that, okay, if a child says something is making me feel weird, an adult is making me feel weird, we tell that child, okay, you need to tell us immediately. Now, if the parents don't want to listen to that child when they say this adult is making me feel weird, they want to be around me in a way that I feel uncomfortable about, and I don't want them around me anymore, but my parents don't listen to me, they have a right to go outside of your parents in order to go and report that, right?
Yes.
In that situation. So
We lost him.
sorry about that, you guys. I had a short timer on that one, I guess, but I'm not sure where I cut off. But if that is available to a child to say, hey, you know what, this is making me feel weird and my parents aren't listening to me, would they have the same outlet to say, hey, you know what, I want to call CPS because I feel like I'm different in the wrong body and my parents aren't listening to me, and that's only hurting me mentally and emotionally? Should I have that outlet? What do you think, Jen? Sorry.
No, because here's the thing. I think that me being a mom, I know that children don't think of these things naturally.
Mm-hmm.
They are obviously finding this information from somewhere or someone. And I think a lot of the, media and TV, games, they push this narrative. And if you think about it, children don't have fully developed brains at all yet. So they can't process what it even means to be the opposite, like what that would even feel like. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I wasn't thinking anything of like, I want to be a boy,
Mm-hmm.
It didn't cross my mind because we didn't have all this crap going on back then on TV and media and just in the world, like the news and everything. And it's pushed.
Right.
And so, no, I don't think a child has a right to just go and, tattle on their parents that, I feel a certain way and they won't listen to me.
Well, is it tattling on their parents, or is it that child at some point saying, look, I feel this way and my parents don't want to talk to me about it, they don't want to discuss it, it's end of discussion, period. And I don't, and I feel strongly enough that I could report that and get help because my parents aren't helping me. And how would that be how would that be any different than a child saying that there's somebody making me feel awkward and my parents aren't listening to me? So how would that be any different, Sean?
To me, that's a fine line of protecting a child from harm from another person. Okay. Now, protecting them from a feeling that they're actually feeling, like, oh, I think I'm in the wrong body. I think I'm not supposed to be this person. I say let the feelings have its duration of a time, so they can actually experience, instead of just taking that feeling and throwing it into a box and sitting there saying, telling the child, oh well, you can just call CPS and then we're going to take you away, and then we'll we'll get you all the proper surgeries done. We'll do, how is that any different from harming a child? That, to me, that's harming the family dynamic. That's harming the child at the same time, and it's harming society in general. Because back in the day, I don't remember any of this transgenderism thing as it is today. Today it's running rampant all over the place, and social media is a big component of that.
I can agree with that. And you know what, I don't, it's tough to because I think that we all have this same thing, which is back in my day, and the back in my day was, we had a lot of different things. We treated people differently. We did things differently. And we don't do that today. We do a lot of things that are a little more coddly with people. We try to deal with everybody with, gloves on. So this way we don't hurt their feelings. And there was a gentleman named Jordan Peterson who talked about, that life is about points, right? Like there's poignant things in life. There are things that are going to stick us. There are things that are going to hurt us, that hurt our feelings, hurt us emotionally, mentally, physically. And we need to not have all of those poignant things that may hurt us physically, mentally, emotionally. We need to not round those things out, because when you do that, then you have nothing but dull people. And that's, I think, where we're at. We have people that can't handle a simple suggestion or a criticism. I heard about this thing called rejection dysphoria. Look, I live in Northern California, okay? They got names for everything out here. And I love it. I ain't gonna lie to you. I love it. I love it because I listen to it and I'm like, what's that? What the hell is that? But, those are the things that we deal with out here. And I can agree with, I agree with you. I agree with both of you, but we also have to look at the other side of the coin. What if somebody feels something, that they're really going through something? Now, if that child is going through something, we as parents should listen to what they're doing and try to move toward those things. Now, whether we agree or not, I think that we should listen to them. And I don't think that should be an option to take that child away unless it's under extreme situations where maybe the parent is being abusive toward those kinds of thoughts, like physically abusive towards those kinds of thoughts. I think that there should probably be, and Don has a lot of great ideas. And I'd love to talk to Don at another time. There's something that she said earlier, which was it should be levels, right? Like I think first level should be some counseling. There should be those kinds of things. And I think that's probably the way to deal with it. But I want to move forward to the next and last video on this. And I am anxious to see how you guys feel about this. This is about this actress, Kate Blankenship. She was talking about the Me Too agreement. Me Too movement. And this is pretty, I found this pretty interesting. So I want to play this video for you guys.
Two-time Oscar winner Kate Blanchett recently said that she feels the Me Too movement was killed very quickly after its rise in 2017.
Speaking at the Cannes Film Festival in France, Blanchett added, quote, "There are a lot of people with platforms who are able to speak up with relative safety and say this has happened to me, and the so-called average woman on the street is saying me too. Why does that get shut down? What is revealed is a systemic layer of abuse, not only in this industry, but in all industries. And if you don't identify a problem, you can't solve the problem."
Blanchett also talked about the disparity between the number of men and women on the sets of movies and TV shows. She says she'll often do a head count and find that there's roughly 75 men and only 10 women on set. She added, "I love men, but what happens is the jokes become the same. It's boring for everybody when you walk into a homogenous workplace. I think it has an effect on the work." Look, as an actress, I love Kate Blanchett, one of my absolute favorites. So many roles that are iconic. She's amazing in Lord of the Rings as Galadriel. I can't picture anyone else ever playing. Could have not died swiftly enough for me. The reason it went off the rails is everybody started accusing everybody of everything, very thin, evident standards. And I think it went off the rails approximately when like Aziz Ansari got canceled for going on a date with someone that was not like ideal or whatever.
And Ryan Seacrest around that time. They both were getting accused and they were like,
They went after Ryan Seacrest, my twin.
Hell yeah. What are you, the bootleg Ryan Seacrest?
That's what they say. It was grievance and, believe all women was a bad slogan, I think, because you can respect people and you can hear people out, but no category of accusation or claim deserves automatic belief, because people do lie and exaggerate, not on sexual mistreatment, or not just women, but like all people are capable of great deceptions. We've seen it in practice all the time. So,
all right, I'm going to go to you first, Jennifer, on this one. What do you think? I mean, what they were saying about how that actress was saying that this thing was, took it out way too fast and we should still be, involved in it. And her co-host on that show was saying it couldn't have gone way fast enough for the simple reason is that it became a weapon to accuse people of everything under the sun and not legitimate things in his life. So what do you think?
Yeah. So the issue that I have, I think, with the Me Too movement is I feel like it was more of this thing for Hollywood feminists to gang up against men that they don't like and start accusing them left and right of things that they haven't even done or they can't even prove that they've done. And I'm a survivor myself, but I don't believe in this like feminist movement where it's like Me Too. Oh, Me Too. But it's like, no, what you guys are doing, and the reason why it's falling out is because people are not dumb. They're seeing that, these people they're accusing of, they're just saying, well, so-and-so did this to me. He did this, but you have no proof. And like the way that they were doing it was just like, bam, 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 bam. Let's see, like all these guys in Hollywood, and it's offensive to real women who are abused, and or have been, and I'm a conservative. So of course I don't believe in the feminist movement. Of course, the feminist movement used to be a lot different when it first came out, it wasn't like anti-man, it wasn't all these patriarchy nonsense. So, and I'm completely different when it comes to men's rights. So I don't believe in the Me Too movement.
All right. I mean, I can see that, but do you think that, the women's Me Too movement was about outing men who do misogynistic things because of women? And do you think that women that are that are in spaces shouldn't be subject to men hounding them or saying things to them or making them feel uneasy just by walking into a group of men, and then they make them feel uneasy about that? I think that there should be a safer space where you're working, that we're all equal. What do you think about that, Sean?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do I think there's a time and place for that specific, like action? Yes, by all means, women should feel safe. But it's gotten to the point to where the Me Too movement it's no longer about a woman's safety. It's more of, okay, if I say something, like here in Texas, there doesn't have to be a shred of evidence that the guy did anything, but you're going to court. You're going to court no matter what. You're going to court. They don't have to have a rape kit. All they have to have is a woman's word. When a woman says something, okay, you're going to trial for something that you possibly didn't do. You know, so yes, you know, it also affects the real victims, the ones that actually had something go down and have something horribly happen to them, and now it's gotten to the point to where, oh, I don't know if I believe you no more. You know, are you just saying that? So now all these women that come after this Me Too movement, now they have to be looked at like something traumatically actually truly happened to either these young children or these young women, and then now they're brushed aside because, oh, Me Too movement, you're just going off that trend. It becomes more of a trend now,
Right.
than an actual movement for the women to be protected. So to me, I don't agree with the movement in general. I agree with the initial statement of yes, women should be protected, but I don't agree with, okay, what about the men's rights in this movement?
Okay,
You know,
but
'cause-
if the complainant is a woman first, and she comes over and says, "Look, I don't feel comfortable around this guy. This guy says things. He's made comments about how I look or how I'm dressed or how my dress fits me. And every time I walk into a room, I catch him trying to look at me as I walk by." I mean, is that a legitimate complaint, or is this in a woman's head? Jennifer, what do you think?
It's legitimate, like Sean was saying, you know. Look, I want to say, yes, every woman has a right to feel safe, but men have a right to feel safe as well. And, you know, why is it that, you know, like, what if we reverse that? Like, you're asking me if a woman were to go and say, so-and-so is making me feel uncomfortable. Are men allowed to do that too? Like, she did this to me, made me uncomfortable. Like, why don't we ever hear about that? Why don't we ever hear, you know, men are saying this stuff? Because this is so overrated and they're doing it on purpose. They could just make up anything they want to. Like, I could just go as a woman right now, even though I wouldn't do this, but I could just like not like something about a guy, you know, and then go and say, he made me feel uncomfortable, you know. But I think those situations need to be dealt with privately. So why do these actresses who star in films that literally exploit themselves?
I think, and here's what I've heard from that particular situation. Great point. But here's what I've heard about that particular situation. Because they are in a vulnerable situation, such as the Harvey Weinstein case, which was a guy who had an immense amount of power in putting people in positions that could further their career more than anything that they could do on their own. I mean, they could have been a great actress, put in a bad film, and then they get killed, right? They get canned. But he was in such a position that he could put you in a movie that just, you know, accentuated you as an individual, and then you became super famous from that. I mean, it was a launching pad. This guy had access to everything. So women felt like they had to appease him because he was a man of such power that they couldn't avoid it. There was no way to avoid it. So how does a woman, okay, I'll take it a different way. How does a man prevent himself from being put in a situation like that if all he has to do is he can say, okay, I'm going to interview you. Now, granted, the Harvey Weinstein is a kind of a way out there thing because he was inviting people to his hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning. And you sit there, why are you going there at 1 o'clock in the morning? Okay, I get that. But how would a man prevent himself from being put in a position where a woman could say that at any time? How could that happen, Jennifer? How, as a woman, like you said, you could just say whatever you want about somebody. How would you suggest a man not put himself in that kind of situation? What could he do to avoid it?
You could be like Keanu Reeves and you protect yourself of how you are around women, period. Like, and I'm kind of trying to be funny here with the Keanu Reeves But you know, he doesn't. When he takes like pictures with women, meet and greets,
Doesn't touch him.
yeah, they don't. He doesn't like allow, you know.
Yes.
So I mean, maybe that's one thing. But then I'm like thinking, well, why should they have to jump through so many hoops just to prevent that? Shouldn't they just be themselves? Like, what? Like I said, what if the roles were reversed? Like, how do we ask that about women? Like, what can you do as a woman to prevent yourself from, you know, looking like you're doing that to a man? It's a double standard, I think. And I think you have to look into the depths of your question and think about it more. But again, I think Hollywood is a little different than reality. And I get what you're saying about Harvey Weinstein, because absolutely, terrible man, terrible, disgusting person, and justice should be served. Of course, justice should be served to any woman or any man who has ever been violated, abused, or felt. But like, we're talking about accusations that are so small. Like, John, you could come and say something really nasty to me right now, okay? I don't care. That doesn't, you know what I mean? You're a dude. A lot of dudes say things. I mean, it's just,
Right.
but it's so harsh to like humiliate a man in public and to degrade his character and his integrity. Like, at what point do we take, you know, words that are just like hurtful and then actual abuse that is happening?
So do we automatically dismiss what a woman says because we don't know? I mean, or do we sit there and say, okay, we're gonna listen to what you say and we're not gonna have a reaction to what you're saying? Because based on the severity of the accusation is how we feel, right? For example, if somebody were to tell you, if a woman claims to be essayed, okay, now I think we all know what essay is, right? Okay, because I have to be careful in what I say. So if a woman is going to make an accusation of essay, we feel different about that than a woman saying something like, "Oh, he undressed me with his eyes," right? Like we'll feel a little different. The level of disgust is different when somebody makes an accusation that is egregiously worse than somebody looking at you or saying, "Oh, nice shoes." Right. So if somebody says, "Hey, I was attacked," we feel differently about that, right? So do we put it all in one bowl and okay, well, we're gonna take them all the same, or do we believe things differently when we hear them? I don't know. What do you think, Sean?
Well, this whole situation, it goes back to now you got. It goes back to men's rights as well. Okay, yeah, I know what they say. Men will be men. Boys will be boys. That's the common catchphrase. Is what society says. Well, men, boys will be boys. They're gonna be doing that. But now, if you get into a relationship, that's where you're on sticky waters, because now. Like for my kids, for my boys, I don't know if you feel about this for your boys as well, but now it's like, now they have to watch everything they specifically do around a woman. They can't lean in for a kiss. They can't even ask for a kiss, let alone being, "Oh, you broke my boundaries." What are you talking about? I was a gentleman. I asked you if I can kiss you. And no, that's offensive. So it's gotten to a certain extreme to where it's very scary for young men now, as well it is for women that because nowadays it's gotten so bad to where the woman that had gotten kissed by a man or gotten kissed by her boyfriend doesn't even have to say something. It could be an onlooker, another woman. "Oh, he attacked her violently. Oh my God, I'm gonna report that on her. For her. I'm gonna be there to protect her and make sure she's safe." And then you have a whole nother can of worms that have just been opened up because some onlooker. Like, I don't know if you guys know, I follow this guy Joey Swole. He has these videos about gym culture and about people that are filming in the gym, and you'll see people like passing by, and then the woman's like, "Were you just looking at me? Why were you looking at me?" So he's a very big component in the fitness industry about this. Like, okay, there's certain areas you can't film, but if you're filming, you know, the guy didn't even look at you. The guy didn't even do anything.
Does that play to the victim card aspect of things? Because, you know, we all seem to push this victim narrative about every single thing in life. You know, we have this culture of, oh, women are not equal, women are not treated equal. And it's like, what are you talking about? You're the most, you are treated even more equal than men. And I agree with that, because there's a lot of things I can point to that we're not equal on, where women have an advantage over a man in certain things, because we just don't, I mean, like, they have job fairs that are for women only in certain tech, you know, industries, and they're women only. And there was an article that was done, I want to say maybe 2 years ago. There was a tech company that was hiring women only, okay? Women only at this tech company. So what happened was, some of these men decided to identify as women. So they got into the space, and then they were preferably hired because they were considered trans. So that boosted the company up in the profile and how they were hiring. So they were hired above even women that were women because they were considered trans women. So they were hired. And people were looking at that, and women in women's spaces were looking at that as like, holy shit, that, you know, that really didn't work in my favor. But, you know, there's a lot of inequality in things that we do. So and women will say this: if I'm going to be investigated, you know, and I'm going to be scrutinized for everything that happened as I declare an SA event, then I'm not going to report it. Is that fair to them? Jennifer, what do you think?
Well, I mean, just to touch base on that, you know, I'm a survivor, and I know for a fact that, you know, not just women, men, there are good, well, not good reasons, but there are reasons of why sometimes they wait to say anything. So I'm often conflicted with that, you know, because sometimes I think, you know, they wait for the reasoning of making something up, just, you know, but then at the same time, I know for a fact there are plenty of victims and survivors who come out years and years later. There's so much that society has to learn of each behaviors of do you know what I mean? Because there are victims and survivors of that who are, one, humiliated, so they don't come out about it, or they think in their head, well, maybe I can just be strong enough to get through this, and just, I don't have to talk about it or tell anybody, and I can just, you know, move on with my life. But then at some point later down the road, it triggers them, and so they come out and they say, no, I want justice for this. Or they're terrified of the other person who did something to them. So, you know, they'd never say anything, but then as soon as they find their voice to come out about that, they're not silent anymore. And that could be like 5 years, 6 years down the road. So I'm conflicted of how I answer that, because yes, there are women who boldly lie about men, and they just, bam, 10 years later claim that something happened in this year or that year. But there are also victims who are quiet and come out later on because of some very honest reasoning.
Right.
So, but, you know, to come back to what you said about women having more rights than men, I absolutely agree with that. And for me, I just want to say, like, that does affect me as a woman, because you guys should be equal and have equal rights to everything just as much as women. And I see it. I don't know what I'm allowed to say in here, but the one, I'm gonna get a little deep. Is that okay?
No, please, by all means.
Okay, so whether you believe in abortion or not, okay, I'm not going to argue that fact, or your belief is your belief if you don't believe in it or you believe in it. But the one thing that really bugs me and that I would love to make reform on is men aren't given the right to say, "Don't kill my baby, please." That should not be allowed.
Right.
That's just my opinion. And so, that's the man's child, and you guys are just completely, doesn't matter.
Right.
If you want to keep your child, you have no right to say you can't.
Right.
I think that's wrong. So yeah, you guys don't have equal rights to work. We have way more. You're absolutely right.
Right. And I think that one of the things that's a problem in this is the fact that, I'm not discounting the fact that these things actually happen, and that we should discount a person suffering something that happened that way, because we do have laws that say that this is a crime. Okay, now when we find things as a crime, we need to investigate those things, and we need to go through that entire thing. It is difficult. The longer time widens between the incident and then the date of reporting, it becomes difficult. But I think that we should have a time limit, not because I'm saying that people who've done SA should be let go, is that because there's a chance that if you report this 25 years later, there could be that witnesses are no longer even alive. There could be corroborating or people that could corroborate the story. Look what happened just recently with the Chavez thing. This guy was accused of doing something. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not in favor, obviously, of what he's accused of, but he's being accused of something that there is no counter. We can't counter some of these things. And, everybody's gone. Everybody has died. Could had a say in it. So, I do agree with you. And I think that we are creating a victim society, which hurts. And you and Sean have said this, and I agree with you. It hurts real victims when you have people and Don, you nailed it on the head earlier. You take the high profile case such as Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. We all saw that case, and we all sat there and said, "Damn, Johnny Depp, what an asshole. He's doing that." And then it all came out, and yet she was found guilty of lying. Now, think about how many athletes, how many entertainers, how many people in general would much rather pay whatever it is that they would rather, have to pay than to drag this out and possibly lose in the court of public opinion. Because there's a statistic that I just read from the DOJ that was talking about cases that go to trial. When they go to trial, when SA is accused or an accusation of SA is done, there's a conviction rate of 90. It was above 90%. I'm not sure how much higher than 90%, but a conviction rate of over 90% in those cases. Now think about this. Whenever I hear people say, "Well, I don't want to report it because they're never going to investigate it." No, they investigate it, but when you don't have enough evidence, then it goes to the wayside, and it makes you wonder. You kind of pointed it out to this, Jennifer. Sometimes people make an accusation about something that wasn't what it was, and just because it was in their mind that it was this way, they take it that way. Or like what Sean had said, I gave, I moved forward to give you a kiss, or I hugged you, or I touched you in a certain way that I thought was okay, that wasn't okay, and you didn't say anything at the moment, but 2 days later you reported me, so now it is what it is. So yeah, that's a tough one. I agree with both of you, and I just want to shout out to Don Jennings over here. Look, DM me. I want to talk to you. You got really good stuff to being there, and I do appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that's watching. I know I kept you guys a little bit longer than I wanted to. We just had such a good conversation, and I appreciate the back and forth. I want to give you guys time. We're coming to the end of the show. I wanted to give you guys time to please let everybody know who you are, what you're about, and Sean, you're first up, my man. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Oh, I'm Sean Alexander Hamilton. You can find me on Facebook, Sean SEAN Alexander Hamilton, like that's on a $10 bill. I have a couple books out. You can search me, just Google search me, either under Alexander Hamilton. My name will pop up, or either Sean Alexander Hamilton. You'll see my books. Find me there. Also, my Instagram, same thing, Sean Alexander Hamilton. I keep everything simple, just my name. If you want to hunt me down, look for my books, or just need someone to talk to, just reach out, and I'll do my best to reach back out to you. And thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Sean. Much appreciated, my man. And Jennifer, I'm gonna put you on. Please let everybody know where to find you and your book.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook at Jennifer Aaron, not Jenna Aaron, but Jennifer Aaron. And if you're interested in my book, you can go on Amazon and find it under Villain Syndrome. I'm also going to have it available on Barnes & Noble, hopefully in the next week or so. And so if you go on there, you can get, I have 2 different covers. So you can go to either one and pick your choosing of creativity there. So that's how you can find me in my book. And I thank you. This has been fun. This has been very interesting, and I loved it.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you both coming in. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Dawn, I got to talk to you, Dawn. You seem, I like what you were saying in there. And, I wish I could have brought up more of those things, but, the conversation was going kind of fast. But again, welcome to Straight Out University. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you very much. And remember one thing that's so important, and it's always important for people to hear this, because everybody is entitled to my opinion, and that's why I freely give it. You take care. Peace out. Have a good one.
Everything must change.
Yeah, Straight Out University, the syllabus begins. Check the complex method that separates the men from the kids. We building with 4 pillars. Study the architecture, the lessons in the verses, not just the lecture. See the mind for the money, the muscle is the proof. That global frame is wisdom from the concrete to the roof. And the game is pure knowledge that defines your every action. A strategic satisfaction for a chemical reaction. It's a blueprint for power, not just a simple acquisition. The formula for greatness, a scholarly position. Straight Out University, yeah, the lessons in session. Straight Out University.